Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Okay, we're gonna start off with a little game called Two Truths and a Lie. Do you guys, you know that game? Okay, I'm gonna say three things, and at the end, you're gonna guess which one I'm lying about. I used to play this summer a lot when I led canoe trips at Rafi, Canada. We'd be sitting in the canoe for whatever it was, up to 8 kilometers at a time, and to keep them from throwing each other overboard, we would play this game. Okay, number one. A family friend of mine was once globally ranked in Harry Potter trivia. Not only could she not stump me, but I stumped her. That's number one. Number two, my brother and I attended a trivia night at a bar in New York City for our favorite TV show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and won easily. Number three, I was ranked third in the country in the 2015 Chidona Tanakh, the international competition for Tanakh-based trivia, which of course is the 24 books of the Bible. So number one is I stumped a global expert in Harry Potter. Number two is my brother and I swept It's Always Sunny trivia at a bar. Three is I was third in the country in Tanakh knowledge. Raise your hand if you think I'm lying about number one. Okay, interesting, great. Raise your hand if you think I'm lying about number two. Great. Raise your hand if you think I'm lying about number three. Fascinating, I'm lying about number three. I knew this would happen. Yeah? Is it the beard that you think I know Tanakh better than Harry Potter? The truth is, I wish I knew the Tanakh better than Harry Potter, but that's very much not the case. In fact, I don't think it's a stretch to say that there are exceptionally few Jews in this country who know Tanakh better than they know Harry Potter. And that's a little sad, and that's something I wanted to talk about. The late Nahum Sarna began the introduction to his 1966 book, Understanding Genesis, by stating the following. It is perfectly obvious that the 24 books that make up the Hebrew Bible cannot possibly represent the total literary productions of ancient Israel. The scriptures themselves bear repeated testimony to the existence of an extensive literature now lost. He then points to specific examples within the Tanakh where there are other such books are referenced, such as the books of the wars of the Lord and the book of the Ashar. All in all, he estimates that there are 20 books that are no longer in existence that are mentioned in the Hebrew Bible by name and were not chosen to be in the Tanakh. Why were certain books chosen to be canonized and others were not? What criteria were used? And who made that final determination? Was there a pseudo Beit Din somewhere in the arched stone halls of ancient Jerusalem? Or did they employ an early version of the baseball writers who would vote on the Hall of Fame inductees of the books? Unfortunately, there are no answers to these questions. That has also been swept away by the unrelenting winds of time. However, Jonathan Sarna says we can assume something from the fact that these are the books that we have. We can assume that canonization didn't make the 24 books that we have holy. They were canonized because they already were. And that's something he wanted to note. These were the books that our ancestors connected to the most. They included the characters and stories, themes and laws, lessons and literary elements that stirred the passions of an entire people to fight for their Judaism at risk of death. It provided comfort for the families of the Jewish communities of Europe who were flattened and destroyed by marauding crusaders, a horrible moment in history I recently covered with our 6th graders during our Sunday morning classes. It fueled the courage of medieval Jews in Spain to flee or face the torture chambers of the inquisitors rather than convert, which is a watershed moment that I covered recently with our 7th graders in our Wednesday evening class. The Torah has at various moments through our people's history served to inspire us, ensure our survival, and illuminate for us the pathways of a moral life. You know what I find absolutely baffling? The famous medieval commentators of the Bible that we all know and study, such as Rashi, Ramban, Rambam, and Ibn Ezra, all wrote various commentaries in Hebrew, and yet in all likelihood never spoke Hebrew. Think about that. They learned the language from studying the Tanakh, from breathing in the Torah with all their souls, from chewing on the Mishnah, from memorizing prayers. Can you imagine reading enough Homer to earn your PhD in ancient Greek? Or enough Sanskrit to learn ancient texts in the original, then write a commentary in that same language? That's love, that's dedication. Whenever I open The Lord of the Rings and come across a passage in Elvish, my eyes gloss over and I turn on my Xbox. In June of last year, the Pew Study released an extensive data-driven snapshot of American Judaism. 8% of American Jews who were raised with religion have since converted to some other, and 3% have left religion altogether. That's 11%. That's too high. Within the 76% of Jews who were raised religious and remain so, the conservative movement is shrinking the fastest. For every person who has joined the conservative movement, 3 have left. What are we doing wrong? What can we do better? There are many areas in Judaism that have pushed people away and many segments of modern American culture that draw people in. Growing up in the Jewish day school system, I've seen people traumatized by overzealous, fear-based approach. One of my teachers forced us to sign a contract in front of the Aron Kodesh in which we swore not to touch any members of the opposite gender. We were 15. I've heard of rabbis preaching ignorance, Hebrew schools that tormented, and every other thing under the sun. We know none of those things happen in this shul, and hopefully don't happen everywhere, but something is happening, and it is happening everywhere. So what can we do? If nothing is overtly pushing our families away from our denomination and Judaism in general, and we're committed, as we are, to engaging in modern society in full, perhaps we need to find smaller ways to gain excitement over the tools already at our disposal. Maybe simply learning about our history is a good place to start. My religious journey has been complicated and winding. For those with whom I have schmoozed, you'll know this. I grew up modern Orthodox and hyper-committed well into my 20s, at which point I actively stepped off the derech of an observant life and into a 3-year-ish ramble into the weeds of Aveirot. If I were in a flamboyant mood, I might qualify those years as bathing in biblical sin. My brother liked that line in particular. What I don't disclose often are the 2 elements of Judaism which have always nourished my soul and ignited my spirit: communal davening, Kabbalat Shabbat in particular, and the study of Torah. For me, whenever I'm sad, lonely, depressed, anxious, or unmotivated, I know that a good Kabbalat Shabbat will lift me up onto God's wings. The same could be said for the feeling I get when I educate myself on archaeological discoveries that match or illuminate or even dispute what we have memorialized in the Torah. I personally find that fascinating. Those pursuits keep me personally connected. Now, this is our first Shabbat following the Chagim. It's the true beginning of the new year, the actual moment when our religious and spiritual journey can restart. We're all trying our best, and yet, as a DBT therapist has once told me, we can all do better. I'd like to offer us a blessing and a challenge. The challenge is to find something within our corpus that ignites the flames of your soul and dive headfirst into it. And my blessing is that that fire shall never go out. Shabbat Shalom.